Xiaomi 12 Pro has to be one of, if not the most expensive phone I've reviewed by far. And for the price of 48,999 pesos for the sold model with 12GB RAM and 256GB storage, you expect this phone to do everything you expect from a flagship device. But to preface this video, I'll be sharing my experience with the Xiaomi 12 Pro while drawing some comparisons with iPhone 13 Pro, a phone I've been using for the past few months as my daily driver. So, with that said, let me start with the design. The very first thing I notice is the way the device feels in the hand, of course. The 12 Pro is made of aluminum, metal, and glass, which contributes to that classic premium feel you're always used to hearing from tech reviewers. And yes, it is on the heavy side, but to give you a better idea, this phone feels a lot like Samsung phone, and that is thanks to the curved glass. And mind you, this is Gorilla Glass Victus for the front and Glass 5 for the back. There is no official water and dust resistance rating for this phone unfortunately, but when it comes to the physical aspect of this phone, it's definitely worth noting. The color I have here is the purple model, with a frosted-like finish with subtle glimmers if you look at it very closely, but the backing feels a bit different than most glass phones. It almost feels like my hands are rubbing against some sort of rubber texture which should provide some confidence and grip, but is actually on the slippery side. The 6.73 inches LTPO AMOLED display looks massive on paper, but it's actually on the handy side due to the curved sides. And again, thanks to those curvy sides, it makes this Xiaomi phone feel like a Samsung. But the difference here is that there's a setting under additional settings that lets you adjust the area of the curved edges to prevent accidental touches. And based on my experience, this has been a very helpful feature indeed. This is a very crisp and fast display thanks to the 1440p resolution and the 120Hz refresh rate, but as I've mentioned earlier, this is LTPO, so the refresh rate goes as low as 10Hz. For example, when there's no image or animation in the screen. You do have the option to choose between 60, 90, and 120Hz, so that's good, as well as 4 more AI-based image engine like HDR, MEMC for making videos smoother, and Super Resolution for upscaling low-resolution videos. However, the improvements and changes are more on the subtle side, so if you can see the difference with these features turned on, it's better to have them turned off to conserve battery. But overall, this screen is bright, amazing, and colorful. It can comfortably reach up to 1000 nits in high brightness mode and about 1500 nits in HDR mode. It also supports Dolby Vision and works properly with Netflix. The in-display fingerprint scanner is not the most reliable of its kind though. Although it works fine like 80% of the time, the rest of 20% is basically me having to enter a PIN code or retrying multiple times just to unlock the phone. You can measure your heart rate with this sensor, but after recording consistent low heart rate, I don't think it's a very accurate sensor for the matter. On the other hand, the haptics feels good here. So if you're a fan of haptic feedback, this is good enough to provide a satisfying experience. As for the 4600 mAh battery, it's above average at best thanks to the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 inside, which is one of the most powerful mobile chips today. With gaming, you can easily drain the battery within 2 to 3 hours, but with regular day-to-day use, you're more than likely to top up by dinner time with around 4 to 5 hours of screen time. But when you do, charging this phone with the included 120-watt charger requires only a little over 20 minutes to go from 0 to 100. There is 50-watt fast wireless charging, but you do have to buy the charging dock separately for around 3,500 pesos. There is also reverse wireless charging at 10 watts, and you have to turn this feature on in the battery setting and at the same time set a charging limit to prevent this phone from depleting. There is no headphone jack here, but the Harman Kardon stereo speakers sound great even at the highest volume. The performance, as expected, is great as well. If I have to nitpick, I want to see fewer stutters on Twitter. Seriously, someone needs to fix this as I get better performance with my Samsung Galaxy Note 9 running on 60Hz than this phone. I also want to see slightly better animations. Don't get me wrong, they do look fast and fluid, but they don't look smooth or seamless for a phone of this caliber. But aside from that, the Xiaomi 12 Pro absolutely crushes it. The most intensive app I've used here is Genshin Impact, running on maxed out settings with motion blur turned off, and while the phone throttled a bit after 20 minutes, it didn't make the gaming experience miserable. At worst, I was getting 50 to 60 frames for the first few minutes before hitting 40 to 50 the rest of the way. Now for the cameras. These are really solid cameras. The selfie camera is using a 32 megapixel sensor. It's the least capable out of all the sensors, only capable of recording up to 1080p at 60 frames, and the colors can be quite off at times, especially once HDR kicks in. But the triple 50 megapixel sensor in the back, a wide, an ultra wide, and a 2x telephoto are great whether you use them for photos or videos. The main sensor supports OIS all the way up to 8K 24 frames recording. But all three are capable of up to 4K 60, all while letting you switch between the three while in the middle of recording, kinda like iPhone 13. You also get a total Xiaomi camera package, such as vlog mode, which curates a short vlog for you by using a few selected clips, movie effects, dual videos, super moon if you want to capture the moon with the best quality on a Xiaomi device, and night mode for all three sensors in the back. With all these great features, there has to be a catch, right? Well, there is, but I don't think it's a deal breaker to regular consumers. While you can switch between the three sensors when recording in 4K, you do lose HDR support. When you toggle on HDR before hitting the record button, the camera will only let you record with the main sensor and not with the ultra wide or the telephoto. And when you compare this with the iPhone 13 Pro, you can switch between all three sensors, but you don't lose HDR support in the process. With Xiaomi phones, it's hard to get a bad photo or video quality outdoors. It's usually indoors when these phones start to fall apart. But for the 12 Pro, it definitely holds up pretty well. Now that is the Xiaomi 12 Pro. It's definitely a high-end, top-end caliber phone. This phone may be on the expensive side, but it's still not as expensive as the likes of Samsung or Apple. That's it. Drop a sub or like if you feel like supporting the channel. And as always, until the next one, stay safe.